for me, remember who it is. And they're like, oh my goodness, that poor sucker whose furniture is all over the highway, and it was his truck.
I have only heard disastrous moving stories from you guys.
Oh, we've got some good ones.
Okay. Probably, I've been through almost every type of move, from the super smooth, everything went well, to the, oh my gosh, we're never going to get there.
Oh my God. Well, we're at 8 o'clock. So, sorry, my husband's just poking his head in. We're at 8 o'clock, so why don't we get started? So first of all, thank you both for meeting me in the bathroom. Welcome to everybody who's joining us tonight. Welcome to the Command Post, Tales from the Bathroom. We are Together We Stand. We are a military foundation focused on supporting, recognizing, and thanking military families. And today we have Sarah Rozema-Seaton with us, and we have Catherine Desmarais with us, both coming in from. So welcome, everybody.
There's my dog just barking up his door. He jumped out of the tub.
He's not in the bathroom with you.
Nope. Just jumped out of the tub, took care of that.
Can I just say, okay, first of all, where's your drink, Catherine?
I know. Well, with the time change, I kind of just left it on the counter.
We are going to wait for you. Go grab we can't drink it. Go grab yourself a beverage.
Perfect.
I love that she's in. Okay, next week I'm gonna try to do it from my bathtub. There's just nowhere to balance on it, so I'm gonna have to figure out what the setup is. Are you in your lawn chair, Sarah?
I am not in my lawn chair because we took our lawn chairs to the beach, and now I don't know where they are.
No. So what are you sitting on today? How are you going to keep your ass from burning from the vent?
Well, the air conditioner's on this time, so.
Oh, so now you're going to get frostbitten.
Yeah, but I don't mind seeing it's 1 billion degrees outside.
It kind of feels nice.
So it's not so bad.
What are you drinking tonight? I have my red wine going. You always have an interesting beverage of choice. You always have
I'm going for some sangria.
That looks good. What kind of sangria is it?
White sangria.
Okay. That sounds yum.
I know. We're trying to
All right, we've got Catherine, and she is. I see it. What is that? Let's see.
Well, it is wine. It's a wine glass made from a wine bottle.
That's fantastic. Is it red or white? We can't tell.
Oh, this one's white.
Okay.
But looks pretty dark through the glass.
No, what a great wine glass.
It's so fun. Pick that up in California.
That's so fun.
Oh, that's a nice to pick it up.
So before we get started, we're going to be talking about posting season today, which I'm excited about because it is posting season, and I think everybody's going through it right now. But for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Sarah is not a new face for us. She's been with us a few times. Catherine is a new face for us, and this is the first time I'm meeting her. Sarah, maybe give us a really quick background in terms of what your military family looks like and how long you've been in the game for, and then we'll go over to Catherine and ask the same.
Okay, so we have 3 kids that are 10, 12, and 15, and I've been married to my husband, I don't know how long for, but a really long time, almost a couple of decades, and we have moved, I think, around 7 times, so moved around a lot, much like a lot of other military families.
And your husband's Air Force?
He's Air Force, so we're currently based out of at CFB Trenton. So we live there, and lots of planes flying overhead, and all of those things.
Since we're talking about posting season, if you guys have moved almost 7 times or exactly 7 times, where have you been?
Okay, we have lived in. Let's see.
You can pass the test.
I know. I moved from Australia to Kingston, from Kingston to Winnipeg to Trenton to Oklahoma to Ottawa to, we did IR. So there was an IR posting in there, then we moved to Toronto, and now we're back in Trenton.
Okay, and 7 moves in how many years?
Oh my goodness. I met my husband in 2003.
In 2003. Okay, and Catherine, tell us a bit about your background. What does your military family look like, and how long have you been in the game for?
Sure. I met my husband, 1999. That's like a million years ago. And we've been married now for 18 months next Monday. 18 months, 18 years. Feels like 50.
It took you guys a while to get engaged there if you met in 1990.
We feel like newlyweds. No, just kidding. It feels like about 50 years. we have done, I guess this would have been, I think this is our 8th move if you count an IR move to Toronto. Sure. So we went from Kingston to North Bay, Cold Lake.
I've done all the desirables.
Oh yes, but we deserve the next one, which was, well, North Dakota. But then we got to go to California.
Oh, I know.
So that made it. And then Colorado Springs. And then back to North Bay. My husband went to Toronto. And now we're in Winnipeg.
Great. And how long have you been in Winnipeg for?
Just 1 year, like yesterday.
What branch of the military is your husband in?
He's in the Air Force.
He's in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm. So air weapons.
Do you have children?
We have 3, like Sarah, similarly, actually, 16, 14, and 9.
So busy. So your children, all 3 of your children have been through all of these postings with you. I keep thinking about the resiliency of all of these kids and what they and what they endure and overcome. So that's incredible.
It's amazing.
I want to make a little bit of a disclaimer here in terms of today's topic, and I guess any topic. We've covered military family, raising kids in the military, and we've covered reintegration, and now we're going to cover posting season, and we cover a lot of topics that don't necessarily apply to all military families. So I want to make sure that we're not alienating anybody who's watching tonight, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that just because we have individuals who move posting to posting to posting to posting, that does not necessarily discredit all of the ones who are in one place for periods of time. We know about many military families who have been completely in the same place for years and years, but their spouse is off every 2 weeks. So I just want to make sure that we continue to let everybody know that everybody that we're bringing on, they are just one individual within the military and do not represent the entire military, and everybody's experience is equally important. So I just wanted to put that out there. And Sarah, before we talk about this, you had sent me a message, and unfortunately I don't have it popped up here. There was an organization that was actually going to be doing a whole seminar on posting season coming up. Is that right?
The ombudsman is asking for information, so I can actually post that information because they want to know more about what's going on. So we can post that information because it's really important for any military family, because people don't know what they don't know. So it's really important for us to make sure that we're talking about what's going on, and the good and the bad and the what could be better. So it's important that we give our feedback, because we can sit and complain and not talk about it, or people don't know how to improve something if they don't know what the problem is.
Okay, so we'll put that link up on our TWS site later so that everybody can give their feedback. So that's great. So let's hop right into it. First of all, educate me a little bit here. Posting season. Is this the period of time where the moving actually begins and the house hunting actually begins? Or is this the period of time where people get notified that they're going to be moving? Or is this the period of time where you're actually physically moving? What does posting season kind of entail here?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So posting season isn't also, it can move and people can get posted at any time. It all depends on your circumstances. Most of the time, traditionally, because everyone's story is different, posting season, usually you find out where you're going around like February, March timeframe, and that's when you kind of book your house hunting trip and or your DIT, which is your destination trip if you already have a house, so that you can see schools, etc. And then most people move in the summertime. And it will, no doubt, the day that the truck arrives will be the hottest day in Canada ever.
Or raining buckets.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
rain, that makes sense.
yeah, it could be either, but
Heat stroke or tsunami. Okay.
or you're moving. We've moved in the winter time before. That was also, moving in snow. It's not fun. So, but like in the traditional sense of a typical posting, usually you're moving in July, August timeframe, and then
And Catherine, you've done this 8 times before. How long is the period of time when you can actually go searching for a home? Because it's not a very long period of time, is my understanding.
No, we get a window about a week, usually.
You get a week to figure out where you're going to permanently live for the next little while?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I heard that straight.
So if you don't find something in that window, I guess you can have it. We've always been lucky. You can extend or have the member go back, I believe. Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong. We've never experienced that, but
it depends on which envelope of money. So basically you get envelopes that different benefits come out of, and some of it is for your realtor fees, and some of it's for your moving expenses. So it depends also what's in your envelopes of money, and also who you take on your house hunting trip. It's not quite as easy as one would think it is.
Are costs covered by the military for the house hunting trips?
Yeah, so the cost is covered by the military for house hunting trips. So if you and you can take your family, which is really, I find really important, because the kids really need to see where they're going, because it helps them with that transition piece. A DIT, which is a destination inspection trip, that is only the member gets to be covered for that. So that's if you have a house already, and then it's just coming to check on things, or yeah. So it just depends. There's a whole book on it.
And I'm going to go to Catherine first, and then we'll go to Sarah. So what have you, in your 8 moves, have you purchased homes, rented homes, or lived on base?
we have done a little bit of column A, B, and C.
Wow, okay.
So we purchased a home, we rented sight unseen times. One of us would go, like Phil, my husband, ended up securing us a location in North Bay without me seeing it. So that's always fun in a marriage.
Oh, okay.
Was it good though?
How did that go over? So you walked into your home for the first time, and were you like, honey, great job? Or were you like, what were you thinking?
I was thinking this will do for 2 years.
That is very politically correct.
Right? The nice thing about that is that these are it's not your forever home. It's not your dream home. It's going to get you through the next few years, getting the kids to school. As long as the girls didn't have to share a bedroom, that was pretty much the only stipulation. So.
And Sarah, have you owned, rented, or lived on base, or some, or all of the above?
All of the above. So we have lived in military housing. Our last house before this house, we rented because we were in Toronto, and we also rented when we were in the States. So, and then the other ones we've purchased homes, which I think is almost more stressful, because you have to sell a house to go to the next location, and sometimes you don't sell it till literally the moving truck is there.
That's true. Or trying to sell it when your spouse is away and you're going out, and you have to inventory your whole house, including the garage, which you have to name every tool. So I'm like, spinny thing with a blade. I don't know.
Oh, that's something you might not know, is we have to inventory our houses.
I didn't know that. So what is the purpose of this? Why do you inventory your house?
Well, and then there's also the bingo. Have I told you about bingo yet?
No. Can we please? Okay.
Okay.
Why are we inventorying?
Good. Okay.
Number 2, what is it, like posting bingo?
No. Okay. So Catherine, you cover inventory, I'll cover bingo.
Okay, perfect. So inventory is only when you're crossing the border somewhere going out of country. So when your stuff crosses the border, they have a list of everything that's in the moving truck.
They're like spinny thing with the blade. Okay.
Yeah, spinny thing with blade. Also an estimated price if this truck was to get lost in who knows where and never to be seen again. This would be a monetary value of what maybe is in your truck.
Why only for crossing the border as opposed to crossing 6 provinces?
That's a good question. I think it has to do with it's something to do with customs. They just need to know what's coming in and out of their country. So yeah, it was interesting trying to put like a monetary value on something I have no idea what it's even called. So my husband's like, that's worth $500. I said, well, if it goes missing, you're getting 50 because I have no idea.
Next time, be home for inventory.
Be home for it. Yeah, exactly. And down to the number of pair of socks. So that was so big.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
That is, I would actually like to see that spreadsheet one day, just to see, like, random, like, I'm just trying to think of what I have in my drawer, like yellow spreadsheet, like, just, you know, bobby pins.
I know there's some obscure random things on there, and I'm hoping that I have it saved somewhere. If we have to do it again, I can just edit the sheet and not start from scratch.
When I'm thinking about some of the people I know, those inventories would be very interesting.
Right.
Like, maybe I'll disclose this. And Sarah, okay, bingo. What are we talking about?
You're funny.
So I just lost my screen for some reason. So I can hear you, I just can't see you. So bingo, every single box that goes out the door, goes on the truck, goes on a sheet, and everything has a number on it. So as your boxes come back off the truck, you have to actually mark off that you've received every single box, so against every single number. So we just call it bingo.
Moving bingo. Okay. And what happens when, now, I've heard from a few people that items can get damaged, because I've heard that the moving contracts are something, that's a whole can of worms there. What happens if things get damaged? Is that, like, Sarah, what happens when half your truck doesn't arrive?
We've had all sorts of experiences. So one of our trucks went missing. So from Oklahoma to Ottawa, we were and I had 3 kids. So living with 3 kids in a hotel, as much as it sounds glamorous, is not glamorous at all. So we bought our house, we closed on our house, but they couldn't find our truck. So the truck driver had actually turned off his cell phone and had picked up his grandson because he was in a state that was on the way up to Canada, and went on a vacation in the truck. So it took a little bit longer, but it's a lot of emotion because it's your entire life in there.
Right.
So you bring what you can in your car, and usually that's things like, jewelry and passports and things that are harder to replace. But everything else is in that truck. Everything from your wedding photos to like everything else is there. So, when they can't find your truck and they don't know where it is, and it's got your entire life in it, it's a little bit stressful.
From this conversation. Very stress-inducing. Okay, let's go back to house hunting for a second. You have a week. You have a ton of homes to cover. We have some people listening who have perhaps not done as many moves as you had, or perhaps have yet to do their first. What are some tips and tricks that you can pass on to house hunting, knowing you have a very limited period of time? I'll put it to Catherine first and then to Sarah.
We like to put it out on either social media or ask MFRCs for a list of either a good realtor who's dealt with military moves before, kind of put out a feel for schools. We like to figure out what schools maybe our kids would go to potentially first before we look in that specific area. on the house hunting trip, we like to tour the schools if they're open. Sometimes they're not. So we call ahead of time as soon as we know, set up maybe a tour of the school, try to figure out if that's going to work for our family, and then start looking in that area. Sometimes houses aren't available to purchase in your price range, let's say. We've actually had to knock on doors if someone's doing a private sale and say, are you up for the idea of renting? You know, we're a military family, we're a responsible family. If this is something you consider, give us a call. So that's pretty unique, but it worked in a pinch because you are under such a short period of time.
Does it force you to become more decisive?
Oh yeah.
I think definitely after a while, and certain things don't matter. Like I don't need my double sink in the bath. Like certain things you just let go if it's going to be something that's temporary or the only thing that's available.
Right.
So
Sarah, what are your tips and tricks that, you know, I know you are Miss Organization. I'm guessing you have lists somewhere.
I have a spreadsheet.
Yes, of course you do. Yeah.
Color coded, I'm sure.
Pretty much, yeah. So we usually start like months in advance if we know we're going to somewhere, and then, you know, researching the schools, like the Fraser scores. That's a great place to find out information about some of the schools. And then usually having a good realtor is really, really important. So you've got to have someone that can keep up with you, but also know what you want. So they take the, you know, because we make lists of like, these are the houses that we think we want to see on the first day, the second day, the third day is the things have gone sideways. The fourth day, you already have your home inspector even booked, even though you don't know where you're moving to. But
you have a home inspector pre-booked to say in 4 days I'm gonna have a house.
Yeah, so having a good realtor that you can say, book a home inspection for a house that we don't know where we're moving to by day 4, because we're gonna do this. And then day 5, you're at the lawyers, and then you're kind of out of there. But it's really important to do the research, ask other people what they think, if they've got kids around the same age. Checking the schools are really, really important for us with our kids, and make sure you've got a person that can take off the houses that you really don't want to see because they've seen them before, or they know it's not really what you want, or, you know, it's next to someone that has built their own statues in the front and have decorated their lawn with a variety of garden gnomes. So I know I don't want to live next to garden gnomes.
Way to deal with that. If you can't beat them, you join them and you buy better garden gnomes.
No, I can't do.
You might find one on your doorstep here in the next few weeks.
I know. No one sent me garden gnomes or clowns.
Catherine. I'm sure I know more people in Belleville. I'm sure I can arrange that.
So that's part of it, but also don't get hung up on the small stuff. You can paint houses. You can, like, there's things that you can do to improve. I am notorious for buying an ugly house, as my husband puts it. I always buy something that has electric blue carpet, or this one was completely peach inside and out.
Nice.
But I'm like, you can paint that.
Right. So you have to learn to kind of see past them.
You have to look beyond.
So here's a question, because you guys have moved province to province and you guys have moved to the States. When you're looking, let's talk about rent or let's talk about buying, because I think either way, what happens when you move from a province that is reasonably priced to one where the cost of living or the cost of homes are significantly more expensive? How do you reconcile that? How do you make that work?
After you're finished crying, then
you're finished crying and sobbing into your pillow and had a bottle of wine. Then, when you really think about it, how do you manage that? It's a hard. I feel like it's something that so many families go through. So how do you cope with that?
Well, when we moved to Cold Lake, and that's when it was peak oil season, like top of the market housing. We ended up looking outside of the town into a smaller area, hamlet, if you will. And we ended up buying out there because that was in our price range. Right. Looking outside, putting the price of the commute in mind, because you're always driving a little bit longer. or if there's military housing available, or renting. Those are the things.
Are there subsidies available in terms of like the military trying to, this is not me trying to bash the military, this is just me trying to understand, if they know that the cost of living is X in Victoria versus B in somewhere in Saskatchewan, are there ways of equalizing it all? Are there allowances in terms of house hunting, rent at all?
So Ottawa is the norm. So Ottawa house market is pretty much the norm. And then certain places like Toronto or Victoria or ones that are, so it's called PLD. So you get an allowance for that. Does it cover the extra? Not really. It does for sure help, but I think one of the things to keep in mind is it's with buying or with renting. I mean, I was actually just talking to my husband yesterday about this, and we would have been mortgage free as of next year, but we're not, because you lose every time. Like, you either lose or gain a little bit every time, and you're always moving to the next thing. So I think that's the hardest part, is you're like, and we're getting a mortgage.
You don't have any control if you're buying or selling in a high market or a low market or any particular year, or.
And that's where you can lose or you can gain significantly. Unfortunately, we haven't done one of the ones that we've gained significantly. We did.
I'm not a military family, and neither have I. If you ask me, I'm always buying when it's high and selling when it's low.
I know what's with that.
What's happening.
It's true, and then not knowing how long you're going to be in an area. You know, we could be here for 1 year, we could be here for 2 years. Do I want to purchase a home?
Catherine, you did purchase a home. What made you decide you were going to purchase when you did, knowing that you may not be there long term?
Right. So this one we're in right now is a rental, actually.
Okay.
We decided on that when we got our posting message, thinking that this potentially could only be a 1 year posting. So we talked it over. Are we going to look at buying? Are we, we could buy and then rent it out to another military family. But I just wasn't, the risk was too high. I'm not a risky investor. So we decided on renting. Plus, we did look at a couple houses for sale, but this one was a better fit for our family, and it wasn't available for purchase. So that's the other thing. But I think,
where's home for you, Catherine? What do you consider home?
Born and raised in Cold Lake, actually, Alberta.
And your husband?
He's from kind of all over Ontario. He was a military child as well.
So he doesn't necessarily have, grounded roots.
It's funny, we always talk about that. He was born in Alberta, so he says he's Albertan, but being a true Albertan, that doesn't count when you're only there for 6 months.
So let me hear it, because I'm sure you have some, either one or many. Tell me a moving horror story, our truck never made it, or we lost half our stuff. Tell me what your horror story is, so that we can advise others how not to go through this.
I can go first if you want. I have quite a few horror stories.
Can we see a picture, please, really quickly? Because I think that is that in the screen? I can't tell. Yeah, it is in the screen.
So this is our moving truck on the highway. This was on our way from California to Colorado. So this is somewhere in the desert. As we drove by, I think it was 42 degrees Celsius. I thought that playhouse was melting, actually, but it managed to survive.
So they ran out of space and strapped your stuff to the back of the moving truck.
Correct. And this all happened, it was 1 a.m, so it was still dark. But when we finished signing the papers, it was actually the next physical date. So we ended up having to put our truck lights on the back of the moving truck because there was no lights. Well, then our truck battery died. All of that stuff that you're just trying to load this up. Phil stayed with the moving truck. Sorry. Are you still there?
Yeah,
I lost you. There we go. Phil stayed with the moving truck while I went to our going away party. He's missed so many of those because he always is the one that will stay back. God love him. While I was eating sushi at the restaurant.
Bye, honey. Goodbye.
Yeah, see you. And he was actually physically up there helping them strap it on, just in desperation because it took so long. And you're on a time crunch because you have to leave by a certain day. So it was a very big stress. This move, actually, too, when they packed everything, they threw all of my nice shoes into a big, box and put some heavy things on top of it. So all my nice leather shoes were all squished. I had gone out and bought plastic shoe boxes now. So all of my shoes go in plastic shoe boxes.
Okay, so for everybody watching, invest in plastic shoe bins so that your gorgeous shoes don't get crushed.
It's my number one tip.
And I like it.
I love my shoes.
To those shoe bins.
Right. And I bought the same type bins for my kids' Lego, and I had put them all organized in bins, sealed them up. Well, they had opened the bins, dumped the Lego in the box, and put the bins on top. I opened that box, and waterworks. That was the straw. So maybe tape those up. I don't know why. I don't know what to say about that, but it was horrible. That whole move. We had a lot of damage. We had a lot of stress. We had, But our next move, though, was fantastic. So
all this to say that those of you out there who've had crappy moves are not alone. You're not the only one. You have a lot of sympathizers out there. Sarah, what is your biggest horror move story?
Oh my goodness, we've had a few. I think do you want a horror or do you want something that's really funny?
Well, I would imagine that if it's funny, it's probably horror in the moment and then funny after when you knew everything was fine.
I don't know. I think it was just a little disturbing. So
okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so when we were moving from Oklahoma, so one of our big moving tips is that we always have 3 really large boxes outside the front of our house. And then as you're going through your stuff, you find stuff that you're like, oh, that was at the back of the cupboard and I don't need that. So one's for recycling, one's for garbage, and one's for donating. So, because you don't want to move what you don't have to, because you only also have a certain amount of weight in your truck. So your truck is weighed and you only have so many pounds to move. So anyway, as we're going through stuff, at the back of the cupboard is my husband's old underwear that's made its way back there, and his RMC swim shorts.
Oh, the little blue ones?
The blue ones! They look like little hot pants.
How many you still have them, and can Rosie model that for us the next time?
I'm thinking that's a hard no. So anyway, we were throwing out stuff, and the packers were like, hey, what are you doing with that stuff? And I'm like, well, and it's books and other stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go donate it and they're like, oh, can we have it? They took everything, including the RMC swim shorts, Eric's old underwear.
It's a sign that you shouldn't be throwing gems like that out.
I hope one day
it was like, Rosie's not done with these awesome blue little miniature swim pants.
I will see if I can find the picture of Eric and a bunch of people. They would probably kill me if I showed it on here. I don't know whether Phil may have been in on this. And they went as RMC swim team in these hot pants.
I beg you.
It would really, I think, benefit a lot of people to see that.
Post, we will see Sarah's husband in the short shorts.
No one needs to see that.
Tune in next week for Honey Hot Pants.
But I think the most horrible moves though are the ones where your stuff is broken, or it was one of our first moves and all of your wedding china it just gets shoved into a box, and so it's in a million pieces by the time it gets there. Or this last one, we had a chair that came and it was in probably 5 or 6 pieces, and they're like, oh, we could probably glue this back together. Like, you really can't. So you learn to detach and kind of start to find some of it funny, some of it's horrifying, but some of it's funny.
Let me ask, because you guys have moved so frequently, and this goes a little bit under making friends in the military potentially. When you move and your spouse could potentially deploy at any point, what do you do for an emergency contact? How do you find that emergency contact when you move to a new location so frequently?
That's funny. I'm trying to think back to the first few moves when I was a bit younger and maybe a little bit more shy and didn't know what to do. I believe I went to the MFRC and just asked, is there anyone that could help me with this? And they provided me a list of neighbors or staff there that were willing to do that. Really, it's a family. Yeah, you take care of each other. Now I will go to the local library or the school and I will chat with everyone and almost in your face. Yeah, I'm like, hello, you want to be my friend? Because I don't have time to make friends. So let's do this or let's move on.
I'm here.
It's like a really crazy kind of speed dating. Like, hey, can you be my emergency contact? Great, thanks. Like,
it's true. And especially if you are in a community outside of the base, because nobody else is living this reality, really.
But imagine if you're living close to the base and there's another military family, they kind of get it. They're like, oh yeah, sure, right. But if they've never met a military family and you're just sort of like, hey, can we be best friends now? Is it hard to kind of put yourself out there and do that?
I would say at first, yes. Now I've had to call back someone and say, oh, maybe that was a bit forward. Let me explain my situation.
Hey, I just met you. Do you like wine? Let's be best friends.
Right.
Just met you. What's your blood type? How do you feel about sharing a kidney?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's so funny. It's true. That happened.
For those of you who are watching and are not military families, just know that if you do meet somebody super forward, they're either A, a serial killer, or B, part of a military family, and they just need an emergency contact.
True. So you take your chances
carefully, because we're not sure,
which you could go either way.
Ask a few questions, and then it'll be fine.
You mentioned MFRCs. I know not all MFRCs are created equal, so let's not talk about the ones that maybe are slightly subpar. But in all of your moves, and I'll ask this to both of you, is there a particular MFRC? This way others can know about this. Is there a particular MFRC that stands out for you guys in terms of being an excellent resource, being new to the community and having just gone through a move or about to go through a move?
I think MFRCs change over staff quite often. So I don't think it's necessarily always the location, but who is the staff that are there. And every MFRC has different programs, and it also depends on the stage of life you're in. So I'm less, because my kids are more independent and I can leave them at home for short periods of time to go grocery shopping. Some of your needs that you have when you have small kids is really different. So it really,
is there one in your time that has stood out as just being going above and beyond?
I think the first time we were posted here was probably, there was one person, she was actually the employment coordinator at the time. So if you're watching, you changed my life. And I remember walking in there and just crying. Like I'm like, hey, I wonder if you, and it just all happened. But it's because I had just moved to a different country. I wasn't used to snow, driving in snow, being born in Australia, and your husband's gone because he left 2 weeks later. It's a little bit challenging, and also not knowing anyone, not really understanding, there's rank divisions sometimes. Well, there was more when we first got in. Well, it felt like it, and it's like, I just want to be someone's friend, and we're like, oh, but you're. I'm like,
I can tell you, Sarah, when I came out to Trenton to the MFRC November of 2019, you definitely have become a household name there, and a few individuals named you as when they first moved. They were like, thank God for Sarah. She was my emergency contact and she was the only person who talked to me. So good on you for giving back in that respect.
She invited me onto her back deck to drink wine. But when you know, when you've been the new kid and you're not sure, and you know what that's like, then you go out of your way to invite someone else because you know what it's like. So
and what about you, Catherine? Has there been a particular MFRC that stands out for you in terms of going above and beyond?
Definitely this last posting to North Bay. The MFRC director there, Tessa, was amazing. The program she put, the Family First initiative, just always being super supportive. That was my first experience with IR when I was there as well. So just needing a little bit extra support and asking for the help, maybe before I didn't. So I'm sure that there's other MFRCs that were willing to help if I would have put myself out there. But I went there specifically asking for help because I needed it. And there's no shame in that. And they were just phenomenal. I could cry right now even thinking about it, but yeah, so fantastic. And then
you mentioned your family for a minute. Let's we're gonna wrap up here just because I can't believe 45 minutes has already passed so quickly. But you mentioned families. How and in your case, both of you have 3 children. How do you manage your children's anxiety or stress? I'm assuming anxiety and stress during and leading up to every move and knowing that there's constant change coming. How do you manage that with each change?
Right. That's a tricky one, especially as they're getting older. They're developing more friendships or a different period of their life where their peers are maybe a bit more important in their life. So this has been our first move that's been a bit of a struggle for one of our children, just trying to make new friends. But they know that we are their constant. We are always here for them. We are the ones that don't change. Our environments change, but we're always a strong foundation together. So we just make sure that we do a lot of family game nights, support that way, Facebook and or FaceTime and whatever the young kids use these days, Snapchat, all that.
TikTok, I don't know what I don't know what language they're using half the time. Emily, my daughter's like, can I use Bibbidi Bop app? And I'm like, sure. I don't know what
So we make sure they set up time to be able to reconnect with their old friends from different provinces, different countries. And when we moved across the country, they were able to stay at a friend's house in every province. That's because really cool. It's so cool. And they really cool. Try to remind them, I know you missed this group, but you wouldn't have met them if we didn't move the last time when you missed that group. So just trying to remind them of the exciting adventures to come and cross your fingers and grab a glass of wine and hope for the best.
And you, Sarah, how do you keep your kids calm through the process?
We involve them a lot. So as far as, which is another reason why we always take them on our house hunting trip if we can, and because I think it's really important, because then they can start to visualize this is going to be your new, this is going to be your room, and allowing them to make that their own space too. So they get to paint their room whatever color, and maybe it's a changing up the duvet, and then also we have a lot of family time too. So on Friday nights, and it's still the case, every Friday night we're, most of the time we're with each other, like playing board games and making sure that you have open communication and allowing them to grieve too. Like it's a grief process, but as they're getting older, some of it's getting easier and some of it's getting harder, because we're ending up in the same place as people, as their friends that they've seen before. And it just happens that, they're in the same kind of world that, often you end up being posted with people that, you haven't seen in years. And that's kind of cool.
That's nice. That's great. Well, thank you. There's so many more questions I could ask, but I do want to be mindful of everybody's time. We're almost at 9 o'clock tonight. Or actually, I should say, what time is it for you in Winnipeg? Is it 6:45 or 5:40?
It's 7:45.
It's only an hour. Okay. So
right, just an hour. So I was almost ready.
Almost ready. You were super close.
So close.
Well, thank you both. Sarah, as always, it's a pleasure having you on. Thank you always for your insight and your candid honesty. And Catherine, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I hope you will join us again as we dig into some other topics that involve military families.
Perfect. Thanks so much. It was fun, ladies.
Thank you. We'll see you all 2 weeks from now. Thanks very much.